All right, YouTube. Looking forward to it, YouTube. Here we go. Got a big show for you. Going to talk a lot about the Super Bowl. Here we go. Going to go live on Facebook too. Here we go. All righty, welcome back to Global Sports Broadcasting Network, GSPN. This is Hanna Time, sports talk show. I'm your host, Cornelius Brad Hanna. Going to bring you live talk, Super Bowl 54 talk, and a lot of news, a lot of fun facts about the game itself and news surrounding the game itself for the NFL. We're going to talk about one story for sure off the top about, well, let's get to all the topics too. For one, money and the fans. What comes first? The NFL making its money or the NFL caring about the fans? It's a fine line. They need the fans, but they're in it for the money too. Most likely the money, right? That's how it works. But there's a story that came out and it made me think, and I'm going to talk about it. It has to do with the international NFL games and how it affects the fans and how does it benefit the fans. Something to talk about. The commissioner, Roger Goodell, talked about it yesterday. Also, Super Bowl 54. We got a lot of fun facts about it, things that would be interesting to you, something to think about, things that we hear about during Super Bowl week that we don't really usually get during a year. Also, a gambler. You like to gamble? You like to make bets on games? How are the gamblers influencing the betting line from the East Coast to the West Coast for this game in particular, too? And we'll break that down and all the integral parts, how it's different than ever before about gambling on games, especially the Super Bowl, the influence of the gambler in that sports betting line. Cannabis, yes, medical wise, where we're going to find and see the first commercial in the history of the Super Bowl, a cannabis commercial. Don't know what it's going to be like. I'm sure there's a video out there previewing it. But we're also going to focus our profile today on Tyreek Hill, Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver, and other news around the game itself on Sunday. This is Thursday. It is Hanna Time. I'm your host, Cornelius Brad Hanna. Going to bring it to you through the next hour of sports talk right here on Global Sports Broadcasting Network.com, live streaming, and Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Let's get to it. I want to say hi to people out there who are popping in. I appreciate the hellos. And the first story that I want to get into is about the fans. Cardinal fans are now being told that next football season they're going to have a home game in Mexico. Now, you're losing a home game. Fans love going to games. Fans can't travel that far. Maybe a select few get to go or find a way out to Mexico. But it's an event. It's the fan. It's their passion to go to a home game. They're season ticket holders, and they look forward to 8 home games regular season. They're going to lose one. This is not the only time it's happened around the NFL, but it made me think a little bit more. When I saw the report that is being leaked out that it's in between the Cardinals playing the Dolphins or the Cardinals playing the 49ers. And then I saw that this is going to be bad if it's against the 49ers. You want home field advantage against the potentially the best team of 2019 if the 49ers win the Super Bowl. Either way, the Niners are a good football team. And I don't know where and how this is going to get decided, but the fact that the Niners may be more popular than the Dolphins, so the Niners will go for the influence of fans in Mexico and to pack the house. But what about the local fans? What about the fans that have been supporting the Cardinals and their fan base back home in Arizona. What about the fans, say, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who seem to travel to the UK every year to play a football game? They lose a home game. They lose a home game. That is meaningful to the diehard fan base. So the Cardinal fans are not happy. Most of the comments, I mean most of the comments are not happy about the fact that they lose a home game. And then the possibility, don't know who is it going to be, that you're going to play a rival team, potentially a rival team. The 49ers has been mentioned as a potential team to play the Cardinals in Mexico for a Cardinal home game. Now that is being a little unfair. Not only the fans lose that game at home, which is a big deal for Cardinal fans, a rival game at home. I don't know why they would go that route, but the fact that somebody's brought it up, the same person who's leaked this out, it's a strong report that the Cardinals are going to be playing a home game in Mexico. I would hope that it's the Dolphins or it's the Patriots, an AFC team, a potential team that we'll say the Cardinals would probably do okay in their fan base support going to the game. But you know the Niner fans and the stadium is going to be packed in Arizona anyway. Pick an AFC team. Go AFC against the Cardinals. Give something to the fans that are supported the Cardinals for so many years. But don't take away a home game against a rival team. You're going to take one away because of what? The Cardinals got, or the city itself got the Super Bowl, but in that agreement, they would have to travel overseas or abroad, across the border, say. So they have to lose a home game to get the Super Bowl here in Arizona, say. Okay, that's fine if that's the deal. Now we're talking about the money. Money or fans? Who's more important? Who is more relevant? Well, you got fans in Mexico that are learning and influenced by the NFL. I understand that. The international fan, the growing of the sport, expanding it, teams are going to have to participate in this somehow. And you're going to lose a home game. Somebody's losing a home game. But here's my one other solution to this, maybe the only one right now, is then add another game. Add another football game. We talked about this during the football season when the NFL was talking and looking to add another game to the regular season. If that's the case, and they're doing it for money, obviously, and the players itself, the contract, the agreement with the players and the owners itself is going to be interesting. But the extra game should be for all teams at that point. The extra game should be utilized for all teams during the season, if that's the case. But how many games can you play overseas? And how many games do these players want to be playing overseas or across the border? That's another debate. That's an agreement that needs to be negotiated. But the extra game itself should be or could be looked upon as that gray spot game where, yeah, you may get a home game, for 4 years, but that fifth year, you're going to have to go travel across the border to play a game. And knowing that, and the fans knowing that, they're okay with that. But adjust the ticket prices too. When they lose a home game, you better reduce the ticket price because they're not getting the full-blown 8-game regular season schedule. There is some talk about reducing the exhibition games, those preseason games, so they can add that extra regular season game. So the fans at some point who want to go to the games, who are your loyalty, your devote, your passionate fan that keeps your engine of money making going, better make sure you take care of them. Better make sure there is balance. Do not ignore them. Don't just negotiate with the players and forget about the fans itself. And just, well, again, they'll still show up. They'll just have to accept that. But look out for the fan. Adding an extra game and making it known that this is for the float game, home game that you're going to have to do every 5 years, whatever it is. That gets everybody on the road, abroad, every team. That the players know, the fans know, the owners, everybody's agreed upon. It's a win-win for the most part. The fans still get their 8 home games, and the most of the time they get a ninth home game, depending on the rotation of the schedule. Because it's going to be an odd number, right? You don't have 16 games and you have a split of 8-8. So there's going to be some years where there's going to be a home game. And the following year, that home game, that extra game is going to have to be on the road. So every other year, you're flipping back and forth. Just trying to make this more reasonable and sensible for the fans itself. I think the fans are not happy about this. The fans have never quite been happy. I know the players don't quite like traveling that far. This is about the NFL and growing and expanding itself, trying to get bigger. It is the money, but is it the money or is it the fans? Yes, we want fans all over the world. And the only way to do it is to bring the game to them, to introduce it to them and satisfy those fans around the world. But at the cost of who? The cost of who? The local fan who puts so much time and money and effort to be there for you every year, every day. Don't ignore the fan itself. Cardinal fans should be unhappy. Any team should be unhappy that you lose a home game. This is because of the agreement that the Cardinals pushed for a Super Bowl. They're going to get it in 2023 in their stadium, in that stadium, State Farm. And that is fine if that's the agreement, but don't ignore the fans. All right. We got Christopher, we got Josh, we got Tim, we got Troy in the house. Don says, I don't like it to give up a home game. Nobody likes that. It's not a good thing. Bob in the house. Troy says they should take 2 preseason games away, add 2 games overseas across the border. I agree with that. That's a good idea too, Troy. Troy Escobedo. Yeah, I know they want to add 1 more game, regular season game. 2. I love to see more regular season games, but the players, do they like it? This is going to be a heck of a negotiation between the player union of the NFL Players Union, Players Association, the PA, and the owners itself. This is going to be a real big negotiation because of what? Money, contracts involved. Okay, the schedule. Guys could get hurt, and it's harder to. It's like your body takes an abuse. It's hard late in the year when you've played so many games. But if this is the route the NFL wants to go to, I like Troy's also. I like the idea of then drop a bunch of preseason games, add 2 regular season games, right? So those 2 extra games, one's on the road and one's at home. But if you're going to lose a home game because of the overseas, across the border game, then at least know and let everybody know this is one of the reasons why we're adding games to the schedule. We want to grow. And I believe if you're open and honest about that, and then the fans will accept it. They know that they will gain an extra home game on their regular season, and they lose it every 4 or 5 years, whatever it may be. And that's acceptable. Because everybody will be happy. But don't ignore the fan. Don't ignore the local fan base, is what I'm saying. More comments about this. Bob Underwood said they won't lower the ticket prices. Bob, you're probably right. You're probably right, Bob. And that's the sad part. If they don't lower the prices, man, people are not going to be happy. Welcome in, Dale. Don from the UK says Green Bay won't give up a home game. As far as I know, they are the only team that has not played in the UK. Don, good insight from the UK. We got to look into that. That's a very good observation on your part, and also a question that needs to be brought up about those Packers. Not able to. Wow. All right. And it's probably because, the people own the Green Bay Packers and something has to be agreed upon with the board members. Who knows how that works with the NFL? But very important that you said that. Look into that a little further. Anish, Todd, Sly, good morning. Mary, Todd, Cornelius, I'm surprised you're not at the Players Open. Nah, I've done the Players Open too many times. I've gone to so many golf. It gets to the point where if Tiger's not there, I'm not going anymore. All right, Anish says, great point, Don. Yes, it is, Anish. Great point about the Packers. Agreed, Captain. Miss you. Yes, I know, Todd. Captain Troy. I know. He's a good one. Cardinal. Michelle from the UK. She's in the house. Hey, we got Jay. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Carlos in the house. Guys, we're still talking about this little story that came out that the Arizona Cardinals and a lot of teams that go overseas to play a game, but they lose a home game. But the outrage, it really was an outrage of all the comments about losing a home game next season. Fans who look forward to 8 fun, enthusiastic, passionate times only get to have 7. And we don't even know that fans who pay season tickets are going to get a reduction in the price of tickets. Something has got to be done. You can't just keep taking that away from fans who are giving their all to you so you can have a living, so you can make Hall of Fames and you can win Super Bowls and you can make all pros and you can make money and a lot of money and a lot of money. Did I say that? Yeah. But you're not going to look out for the fans. Be careful on that. But unfortunately, the fans will still show up and just accept it. Yeah, it sounds abusive in a way. But don't. When you make this deal, when this goes through, and you got to figure it out. The Cardinals made a deal with the NFL to get the Super Bowl back to Arizona. And by doing that, they had to agree on losing a home game. They had to lose a home game. It's going to be in 2020. It's going to be in Mexico. And the two teams that popped up potentially are the Dolphins and the 49ers. It better be the Dolphins. Taking away a rival home game from the fan base is not good. That's home field advantage against a team that right now is superior than you. And if you need an advantage, you need home field. Doing it in Mexico, you're just basically giving the Niners an advantage there. You would believe that would be an advantage because both teams have to travel. It's not home field. And the Cardinals have a good home field advantage too. But it's against your rival. And that's something that bothers me if that's the case, if that happens. If it's the Dolphins, fine. The stadium in Mexico will still be filled up. There's a lot of Dolphin fans down there. Let it be. The fans may be a little bit okay with that. But don't take away that Niner game. Even the fans in San Francisco or the fans that live out west that are Niner fans are going, really? Every year I look forward to going to that Cardinal Niner game in Arizona. And now it's in Mexico. So you really do a lot of heavy hitting, and it hurts the fan base. Be careful. Do not choose or make it a Niner Cardinal game. Do not. That will be a mistake for the fans itself. If you're looking to hype up a game in Mexico, you do a good job anyway. The game itself will sell itself. But to try to bring in a popular team at the time, right now, the Niners are very popular, and make sure they play the Cardinals because you're trying to influence fans in Mexico. They're already there. The fans in Mexico love the NFL. they will still show up. And you'll get others that show up just because it's a thing to do. It's an event. It's to be seen. They still like that in Mexico too. We're not here in America only. Everybody wants to be seen, and look where I've been. But don't make it a Niner Cardinal game. Don't take that home game away from the Cardinal fans. That is a big one. It really is. And that's where I was triggered to talk about this. I know there's money involved. It's about growing a fan base. But the point I'm making, I hope it's justified enough. I love the ideas. I love the idea of adding another game or two, eliminating preseason games to make sure that those extra games added to the schedule is for the growth of the game expanding overseas across the border. And that everybody understands that. It's the new way of the NFL schedule, say. But for right now, it's not helping the local fan. Choose an opponent that matters. Choosing an opponent that matters where? Overseas. Are you looking for the best matchup to sell the game or just to bring a good game? You know, it's if you go to Mexico, the fans are wearing jerseys of all the teams. You go to the UK, it's not just a packed stadium of the two teams playing with their fans. Everybody's like, it's like a celebration of the NFL for them, and they want to go watch a game because they don't get a chance to do it, and they wear their favorite team jersey that has nothing to do with the teams on the field. That's not going to change. Not going to change. So why does it matter that much that the 49ers show up? You're still going to get 100,000 people. You're still going to get 100,000 people at the game, no doubt. All right, more comments coming in about this. I appreciate it. Jesse Vidal. Jesse says, so what if they put the 49ers in Mexico City on us? Is the game that decides the division not fair? We better sign a petition. Yeah, Jesse. It is not. I don't think it's fair. It's not fair at all. I believe the 49er fans get it, should be upset too because they travel to Arizona. But it's a rival game. Don't take away the rival game. Do not take the rival game away from the Cardinal fans itself. And that's a big one too. If the Niners win the Super Bowl and they come to Arizona, that's a big deal for the fan base. It's a huge deal. You want to knock off the champs. You want to knock off the division winner, and you're there at the game. That's a big hype one. And you take that away, well, I don't like it. Even if the Niners lose the Super Bowl, it's still not a good idea. Now, we're only saying the Niners because they were mentioned as one of the potential teams to play the Cardinals in Mexico for a Cardinal home game. Nothing there sounded good, right? If you're a fan, you lose your tailgating, you lose everything, right? Unless you want to travel to Mexico. But again, it's the fan, the local fan, the loyal fan is what I'm talking about. More comments coming in. Got you guys. And let me know too. I mean, does it really matter? Niner fans are going to say, it won't matter. We're just going to kick their butt anyway. You know, Niner fans are probably saying, it don't matter if we play them, you know, any stadium. We're still going to beat them next year. That's how they feel. They feel like they're on their move. They feel like this is their time and their dynasty, their new dynasty is beginning. You know, this is how Niner fans are feeling right now. And win or lose, they'll still feel they're going to whip Cardinals' butt wherever it's going to be. But you know what? If it's in Arizona, it's still very difficult. Even the 49ers of 1988 went into Sun Devil Stadium with Joe Montana. The Super Bowl defending champs went in there, and the Cardinals beat them. They weren't supposed to that day. No, they weren't. But that home field, traveling to Arizona, it did matter. So did Neil Lomax and Roy Green and that team of 88, right? Was it 88, right? But that was a memorable game. But it's an example of home field advantage. It's a big deal. All right. More comments coming in. Appreciate it. Go Chiefs, Jesse says. Todd says, make it another team. Doesn't matter. Everybody looks like they want the Chiefs. Well, at least if, well, the Chiefs haven't won in a while. I think that's probably why. There's a little heartfelt place for the Chiefs, I guess. All right, we're going to move on. Super Bowl 54, right? The big story is it's Garoppolo this and it's Mahomes that, and that's what they're going to do, you know? But between the two quarterbacks, Mahomes and Garoppolo, it's the first and combined quarterbacks highest winning percentage of two quarterbacks in a Super Bowl ever in Super Bowl history. Not Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw, okay? Right? Not John Elway and Brett Favre, right? Not Manning and Brady, right? It's Garoppolo and Mahomes. Those two quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, bring the highest combined winning percentage of quarterbacks playing in a Super Bowl. And they're both very young. Very young. With the 49ers, they win. They match the Steelers and Patriots, 6 Super Bowl champs. Finishing also 4 wins or fewer the year before. And it would be the first time or the second club in history to win a Super Bowl since the St. Louis Rams did it in 1999, 20 years ago. Okay. This is the third time the Niners are playing a Super Bowl in Miami. They won the first 2. Can they hit the trifecta? Kyle Shanahan and his father Mike, could be the first father-son combo to win a Super Bowl as head coaches. For the Kansas City Chiefs, it's been 50 years since Super Bowl 4, 1970, January 11th, when they beat the Minnesota Vikings. It's been a few decades. Okay, quite a long time. And the Super Bowl itself was introduced by Lamar Hunt, the owner, the family of the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid, first Super Bowl win would be his 222nd career win, right? Including postseasons. Only 5 coaches in history of the league have more victories, including the postseason, than Andy Reid. But he needs that Super Bowl one. Pat Mahomes would be the second youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger is number 1. The Chiefs have scored 30 points in each of Mahomes' first 4 career starts, playoff starts, postseason starts, that is. At 24 years and 138 days old, he is the 5th youngest quarterback to start a Super Bowl. With the victory, Mahomes would become the second, right? Quarterback, youngest second. But also, he would match Emmitt Smith to be an NFL MVP, winning a Super Bowl also. Not in the same season, but also could be possible. Only Emmitt Smith was an NFL MVP and also was able to claim a Super Bowl trophy champion. All right, so you want to talk about cannabis. You want to talk about the NFL and legalizing it for the players for their medical use. The NFL has announced that the first cannabis ad in the history of the Super Bowl will be run on Super Bowl Sunday. Now, is that a big deal? No, in the matter of we are all aware of the effects and the positive things about cannabis and how it's being accepted around the world here in the United States. But when it comes to the game and PED use or substance abuse, marijuana use, players have been suspended, fined for marijuana use. Okay? But now you're airing a cannabis commercial. Do not be a hypocrite, the NFL. Do not be a hypocrite. I do hope by next season, there is a rule change about accepting and figuring it out how to utilize cannabis or some type of yeah usage of it for players in the NFL. The fact that you're having a commercial run, yes, it is Fox Sports and that's their airwaves, but the NFL also has a say in it too because it's their image. The other day we talked about the halftime shows, and we talked about having a reggae band being or a reggae show being your halftime show. We joked about it. We talked about how funny it would be. Have it in Los Angeles because the legalization in there, or have it in Denver, even though it's cold. Somewhere where you have a roster band and Ziggy Marley's out there with the others from Jamaica and having a good old time, and the place is smoked up with some serious fog and smog of marijuana, and it's legal because you can't stop it. Little do we know that there is going to be a commercial, a cannabis ad commercial for the first time, which tells me that it's all going to happen, not just in the NFL, but around other sports, professional sports. Allowing it, making it accessible to players for their own needs, medical use, clearance, so they do not get fined and suspended for substance abuse when it becomes a cannabis. Okay? All right. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Comments coming in. I get more about that Mexico game. Fidel says quest for 6. The 49ers, he is. I don't see Mexico fans coming here to watch a game spending their money, but you see UK fans coming here spending their money. I don't mind seeing the teams going there, but I don't see us going to Mexico, meaning the fans. All right, Wilson in the house. Jesse says, no, because we hate the 49ers. Oh, I get it. So, diehard Cardinal fan, rooting for the Chiefs. I get that. Legalizing cannabis. This is the one we're just talking about. Marijuana. You have to accept other drugs, not cool. I don't know. I mean, cannabis, smoking, CBD, the oils, whatever it is that we can take legally and helpful for our bodies, that we are seeing major results and positive results. Carson Palmer is an advocate for it. He's doing commercials for it too. It's a big deal. And if the NFL is going to air a commercial, allowing Fox to air a commercial of CBD or cannabis, whatever it is, it's a big deal because that means the changing of the times are coming for the acceptance of this in our society, but also in the NFL and professional sports itself. All right, let's move on. More comments coming in. I appreciate it. So look for that commercial. Look for the first cannabis ad commercial in the history of the Super Bowl. Speaking of medical, Kansas City Chiefs guard, well, we got a player. He's a first medical doctor to play in the Super Bowl. Can you name that person? That's a trivia question for the day. Kansas City Chiefs guard will be the first medical doctor to play in a Super Bowl. This Sunday will happen. Let me know if you think you know the answer. What is a Super Bowl ring worth? Do you have an idea? Well, right now, and maybe more next year or for this one, but $5,000 per ring is basically the average rate. May go up, probably goes up a little bit this year, especially if it's the 49ers. Got to put 6 stuff on it, 6 Super Bowl championship, mentions on that ring. If it's Super Bowl trophies on it, whatever it is, it's going to be a heck of a ring for the Niners. Diamonds and things like that. For the Chiefs, yeah, but $5,000 for a ring. You would probably think the value of that ring is more than $5,000 when you want to sell it. I would believe it would have to be a higher price, especially if it's a prominent name from the MVP of the Super Bowl or something like that too. So it has more value than that. Kansas City Chiefs, well, they live in the Midwest. San Francisco 49ers live on the West Coast, right? But if you're a gambler, you like to gamble on the games, do you like to put a bet down here and there? Now that there's legal gambling in New Jersey and up and down that East Coast, and there's Las Vegas legalizing, right? It's always been legal to bet games in Vegas, and Vegas has always been the integral, pivotal place for gambling betting lines, especially the Super Bowl. This is a big betting Super Bowl weekend, like always in Vegas. New Jersey, they have Atlantic City, but now they have legalization in that state. It'll be very interesting to see between now and Sunday the influence of gamblers, depending on where you live. You got a lot of betting and gambling in Reno, Nevada, Las Vegas. But the influence of San Francisco fans, big money of West Coast people, being in Vegas, being in Reno to gamble, to bet, to have a good time, could move the betting line one way or the other, up or down. But on the East Coast, you don't get that California, San Francisco, West Coast influence of the betting line. So, as a gambler, not saying I gamble, you may have to look carefully where you want to place your bet. If you want, for example, if the big money starts to come in on the 49ers between now and Sunday, the 49ers may end up being a favorite by kickoff. You may get that 1 point and take the Chiefs. It's basically a pick 'em or a point favored by the Chiefs. That was the opening line. But the influence to change the betting line, depending on where you are geographically, you may have to go online and gamble and bet the online way to look at all the different options because of the influence of the gambler itself. It's a big deal if you want to bet. So pay attention to the Nevada, Reno and the Vegas lines, the influence of California and the Niner fans, the big money that may come in on the Niners. For the Chiefs, they're in the middle of the country, right? Basically, they're in Missouri, right? They may not have that effect. The fan itself, maybe mostly on the East Coast or the online betting. So you're going to have to watch the lines if you're really into it. Okay? San Francisco has been a home team for NFL betting interest in Las Vegas and Reno, dating back decades, they say. These sports books, the managers who run these sports books in these casinos in Nevada, in Vegas, in Reno, have clearly said they get most of the big time gambling bets for Super Bowl or 49er or San Francisco, especially when they're in the Super Bowl. The big influence of that. Stores all over the country must manage and risk based on their own exposure, though. So basically, what that means is finding the fair betting line is important. I'm just going to have to hit that hard because it is the biggest gambling bet game of the year, a Super Bowl. And this is a big one, right? The big one. The locals, the San Franciscans, they are all going to come into Vegas and party and bet. Just pay attention to that. Do you care? Are you going to make a bet on the Super Bowl? Todd says, weed is a drug. I'm sorry, should still be federally illegal across the U.S. Uh, okay, but if it's medical, it's tough decision. I saw it on the news, but I can't remember the name. Oh, keep looking for that trivia question. The medical doctor who is a offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs. Who is it? I got Richard, Dimitri in the house, Andy, Felix, CB, Donnie, Stephen Harris in the house. Thank you for popping in. More Super Bowl news. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, you know what? What a rough start he had. The off the field issues, gets a new contract, a lot of money, one of the most explosive, speedy wide receivers in the game. And he's going to have a big part of this game on Sunday, stretching the field, stretching that defense of the 49ers. But he revealed he wants to be in the Olympics. He wants to qualify for the 2020 Olympics in Japan, Tokyo. Hopefully, he said after the season, if I'm healthy and my mind is still in the right place, I really want to try to qualify for some Olympic teams. Wants to get out there, wants to give it a shot. Asked if he was serious about this. Yes, I have. So Tyreek Hill has aspirations of being an Olympian, but let's talk about his speed. Let's talk about how fast this guy is. Let's give you a big perspective. This comes from next generation stats, next gen stats. Tyreek Hill, Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver, reached 20 plus miles per hour 24 times as a ball carrier the last two seasons. 10 more than the next closest player in that span. That person who's second behind Tyreek Hill with 14 is Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants. Now you know how talented and fast Barkley is. Tyreek Hill is hitting over 20 miles per hour 24 times when he has the ball in his hand over the last 2 years. That is smoking fast. That is powerful. That is going to be a weapon on Sunday, and they're going to have to utilize it. The Kansas City Chiefs. Now you know why he wants to be in the Olympics, or at least give it a shot to qualify to make the Olympic team. Tyreek Hill. The guy that can fly. Third on that list is Cordarrelle Patterson of the Bears. 11 times he ran over 20 miles per hour. And there's a whole bunch of them, 4 players tied who ran over 20 miles per hour 10 times. So you see how seriously in the separation of Tyreek Hill's speed, 24 times running over 20 miles per hour, where the second place guy, Saquon Barkley, is 14 for the last 2 seasons. Then it drops off to 11 and 10. So he's not just barely passing up these guys. He is blowing by these guys. Tyreek Hill is such an extraordinary talent. Hopefully everything in his personal life is cleared up for him and for the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, more next-gen stats. DeForest Buckner is the only player in the NFL with 40-plus quarterback pressures, 10-plus run stops, and 7 hustle stops this season. There's a new stat. Hustle stops. And to break that down, hustle stops, tackles resulting in a successful play for the defense where the players cover 20-plus yards of a distance from the snap to the tackle. So Buckner of the 49ers is racing and chasing a ball carrier 20-plus yards to make a stop. Not that he just gets a tackle on his statistical numbers, but in the next gen stat, they're watching and noticing who's hustling. He is the number 1 player in the NFL with 7-plus hustle stops last season. He's going to need that on Sunday for sure. If he has a big day, that number is going to be up there. We're going to notice that. So that's DeForest Buckner of the San Francisco 49ers. Great stat. Fantastic. You know, when your quarterback pressures, you're 6th in the NFL ranking of that. and run stuffing. You're 19th overall at that, number 99 of the 49ers. And he's number one of those hustle stops. He is a football player. He is a physical beast. And that defensive line and those players on the defensive line of the 49ers, if they all play their best, it's going to be really hard for that Chiefs team to score points. It's going to be difficult. The front line, defensive line of those San Francisco 49ers are really that good. They're that good. More comments coming in. I see you guys. I appreciate it. Stephen Harris, I got you. Annette Henry again, Manny in the house. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and recap everything about what we just talked about in the last 10 minutes of the show. And we'll go back to the top. The NFL has announced for the next 2 years, next 2 seasons, the NFL will have a game in Mexico. And it has been rumored, or it has been noted already, that the Arizona Cardinals will be the team with a home field or home game on their schedule being played in Mexico. Nice. It's good. The reason why is that the NFL has a clause. If you want the Super Bowl in your city, in your state, the Arizona Cardinals made their pitch with the people of Phoenix, the people of Arizona, to get the game back to Arizona, the Super Bowl. But the clause is that you're going to have to play a home game overseas or across the border. This is the reason. And the clock is ticking now, and it's struck 0. Cardinals are playing their game, a home game, which means 8 home games is now cut down to 7. Cardinal fans, from what I've watched and read, are not happy. They want all their home games. They want to go to the stadium. They look forward to it. It's a big deal. It is also mentioned the potential teams are the Dolphins or the 49ers. Now, home field advantage will matter no matter who you play. But when you're playing the 49ers, you need some type of an advantage next season. They're a good football team. They're in the Super Bowl. But with that being said, gotta make sure everything is going well. How do the fans really feel? Well, let's put this in perspective. You lose a home game. You don't get to go to the stadium. The fans locally, do they matter? The money involved. The NFL trying to grow its sport. The international fan base versus the local fan base. The locals lose out. But how do you satisfy this? We talked about this at the top of the show. An extra game. The NFL wants to add an extra game. The NFL wants to bring an extra game to the NFL schedule, regular season. They're probably going to try to get 2 games. You want to have an even number because of home and away schedules. Make it fair. If it cannot be agreed upon with the players, this is going to be a big negotiating thing. Contracts, money, all that matters. But the NFL should be looking at it this way, and I believe they are. They're trying to use and utilize that extra regular season game added to the schedule, which is something that's going to be a big topic this offseason, is to utilize it for these overseas international games. With that being said, how does that play out in the schedule? If you have 17 games, that's going to be a home game one year, and then the next year it's going to be a road game. It's always going to rotate back and forth. But the stipulation on it should be that one of those home games, when you get it, that extra game now should be overseas. But when? Within the next 5 years, the next 4 years, you have to be overseas. Will there be games 2 times in London or in the UK? Will there be 2 games in Mexico every year? Will there be a game in Asia somewhere? in Tokyo. How far are we going with this? How many games, international games, are we looking at here? Are we going to Germany with the game? Big football fans in Germany. Eastern Europe is a huge fan base. Do they go even further and go down to like Brazil and places in South America? But in the meantime, are we looking at 4 to 5 international games a year with the new collective bargaining agreement that's going to be negotiated with the players and the owners, adding an extra game? If you add 2 games, you have to eliminate preseason to fit the schedule. The Super Bowl is going to move up. It's not going to be the first Sunday in February. It's going to be pushed for another week or two. It's going to be mid-February for that. Good luck with the cold weather football Super Bowl game in mid-February somewhere else. Are we looking for a Super Bowl overseas in the next 5? Oh, well, gosh, it could be 5, 6 years from now. We may be having a Super Bowl overseas. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I'm looking at how many games are we playing overseas and across the border? How many games? Do they go and bring a game to Canada? Does Canada care? They brought a game to Canada and didn't really get a big showing. I mean, it was okay. But you're going to have a schedule in place where the extra games, the stipulation is that everybody knows, the fans, the owners, the players, everybody knows that the reason why we're adding it is because we want to go more international. And they're going to have to work all that out. And the fans can say, okay, cool, we've been getting 8 games for so many years, and now we're going to get 9 home games. But we do know every 4 or 5 years we're going to have that one home game somewhere else. I think the fans will be fine with that one. But at this moment, taking away a home game hurts, and the fans don't like it. And I believe that pressure and that outrage, because it is, fans don't like it. They want all their home games. They want to go to the stadium. Is going to have an influence on the regular season change of games, meaning adding a couple of more games, or at least one for this next year or two. I don't think you're going to see next season because we know the teams already, but they're going to have to map it out. They're going to have to figure out the rotation, how the schedule will be built when there's a 17-game regular season, and the teams that go overseas, the rotation of that also. All going to have to work out. But this is going to happen soon. I mean, they're already going overseas, but now adding an extra game. Make it fair. I hope you agree with that. I do. All right. Moving on. Before we head out, we still got about 3 more minutes. We also talked about, if you want to recap this with me and watch it later on too, is Super Bowl fun facts. Went through a bunch of fun facts. We talk about the gambler, how the gambler's influence on the betting line from East Coast to West Coast. Now that the 49ers are in it, how it affects Las Vegas and the Reno casinos and the betting line there. Keep your eye on that, on which team you think is going to win, and do you want points or not by game day, by Sunday. That can change a lot with the big money of Californians popping in, the Niner fans in those cities. Cannabis, first cannabis commercial in the history of the Super Bowl will be aired on Sunday, Fox Sports. And we did a little focus on Tyreek Hill, how fast this guy really is. I love that. We'll get more tomorrow. We're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow about why the Chiefs will win, why will the 49ers win, what has to get done, the matchups. We'll break it all down. It'll be a Super Bowl Friday breakdown of Super Bowl Sunday 54 on Friday tomorrow, as we are just a few more days away. And are you excited about this game? Are you really looking forward to this game? What is really exciting you about Super Bowl 54? Or is it that Is it not that big of a deal? Is something missing? We'll talk about that tomorrow also. And more storytelling. All right, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I appreciate you coming in today. Great showing from the fan base. Jeff Brown, thank my friend. Tomorrow, we will predict the winner of Super Bowl 54. Like I really know who's going to win, right? All right, guys. For YouTube, for Facebook Live, for Global Sports Broadcasting Network.com, the live stream itself. Thank you for watching Hanna Time. I'm your host, Cornelius Brad Hanna, and we will see you Friday tomorrow.